Welcome to the Leading Second podcast, a space to help church leaders thrive in the second chair. The Leading Second podcast releases every Thursday morning, so subscribe and share this with your team. Now let's jump into another episode for all of us who lead from the middle. Hello and welcome to Season 8 of the Leading Second podcast. It's our honor to have you in this space with us today. Thanks for joining us. If you lead from the middle in any capacity, Leading Second is for you. I'm glad you're here. For this season of the podcast, our episode guides are going to be made possible by Pulpit AI. So if you want to find the notes and questions and conversation starters, you can go to leadingsecond.com/podcast and download the episode guide. You can use it with your team or for yourself to make each conversation go a little bit further. We would love it if you would help us make some noise about the podcast by sharing it with your team or posting this episode on social media. And of course, leaving ratings and reviews. It all helps to share the message and move the ministry forward. Now let's jump into today's episode.
Leading Second, welcome back to Season 8 of the Leading Second podcast. My name is Brandon Stewart, and we are so excited and honored to have you in this space today. If you lead from the middle in any capacity, Leading Second is for you. So welcome home, welcome to our tribe. And from the jump today, I am joined by two brilliant co-hosts, two of our favorites. We rope into just about everything around here at Leading Second. Dillion and Leydanis Ritchie from CoastLife Church in Venice, Florida. Say what's up to everybody, my friends.
Hey guys, so excited to be joining you all today from sunny Florida.
Yep.
I feel like it's always too soon to say that in February.
We don't need to be saying that.
We spent this week on the beach, so
yeah.
So you guys know.
But, who invited you?
Yeah, I'm Dylan, or as other people say, Lay's husband. I don't think I've ever been able to do a podcast with her, so it's nice to have some beauty.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you guys here. We love your involvement in Leading Second. And today, you're going to help me interview our brilliant guest. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello, or welcome back, rather, to Michael Whittle. What's up, my friend? I'm glad you're here with us today.
Hey, what's up, y'all? So good to be here.
You've had some adjusting since we talked to you a couple seasons ago on the podcast. You live in a new part of the country. You got a new job. You're like the tech wizard of the church world right now, I guess. Tell us a little bit about you. What's been going on with you, my friend?
Yeah, my family and I did the real original thing. We were very, very unique, one of a kind. We moved from California to Nashville, Tennessee. Nobody else has done that in the last few years. About just over a year ago, really just kind of felt just kind of the leading and the permission to, after 14 years in LA, kind of move our family to Nashville, Tennessee. And are a part of an incredible church here called Holy Saints. And in the middle of all of that, we started a company, kind of accidentally started a company, to be honest. It was going to be a little bit of a fun side project that me and my good friend Jake Sweetman were working on. And then it kind of just went viral on the internet. And we went to sleep one night, woke up the next morning and had a list of about 500 pastors from around the world that wanted to use this product that wasn't even fully done yet.
Wow.
Called Pulpit AI. So that has all happened. And then just a couple of months ago, we announced that an acquisition partnership by a great company called Subsplash, who we've now partnered with to just help us keep building and innovating. So yeah, it has been a crazy 18 months. That's for sure.
Wow. And today, that's the conversation we're going to have. We're going to talk about AI in the church. And I'm just really interested in where in the world this is all going. Your little accidental experiment here. I think pastors are also accidentally using and bumping into AI in different forms. And I think it's an important conversation we need to be having today. And so, my friend, you're going to take us there and help us understand this brilliant, interesting new world. And I will say to everybody listening, as always, we have an episode guide available for this episode on leadingsecond.com/podcast. And we're proudly partnering with Pulpit AI this year because we really believe in their mission, the product, and how it can help pastors and second chair leaders navigate the new world of AI in ministry. So, Michael, maybe you can just get us going. Dillion and Leydanis are going to help me pull some gold out of you today. But tell us what in the world is going on with AI in the church. Is this even a thing? Is this supposed to be a thing? Dunk us into this world and this conversation, my friend.
Yeah. It's funny because it is most definitely a thing. And I try not to be sensational when it comes to how I talk about, AI. I think like it is definitely the hot thing right now. It is definitely a thing everyone's talking about. I mean, trillions of dollars is getting invested into basically every layer of the AI space. But I think when something is so hyped, it's kind of easy to sort of roll our eyes at it and just think it's kind of another wave.
Right.
I think the reality, though, is I do think it is probably the most transformational technology since the mobile phone. And I think it is infiltrating every single part of our lives, whether we like it or not. It's always existed, right? Like you use Netflix or Alexa, or you Google something, you study the Bible in the Logos software. Like you think about every part of our life, we've been using AI, but it's kind of now hit the mainstream, and it is most definitely changing everything. So the church, obviously, I will say this: what I think has been amazing to see across the church at large. You mentioned it earlier. I kind of overnight kind of became the like AI guy in many ways, along with some other folks. But what that's kind of meant is it's meant that I've been able to really get exposed to just people from all across the body of Christ, honestly, all over the world, that are building in this technology. And where I think the church missed out in the early days of social media, where we were sort of like, let's put our heads in the sand, let's ignore it, let's not build, let's not innovate. It seems like we've learned from that as the body of Christ and said, okay, we're gonna put a foot into this really, really early on and do our best to at least create a technology that aligns with our values the best we can. So I will say the embrace of it has been really, really cool. It
feels akin to the early days of social media. It's funny you say that because it feels that massive. And we all know social media went on to completely change. It became the new town square, changed everything for us. Pretty interesting. Dillion, do you use AI?
I do not. I'm fascinated by it. And the reason why is because I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
And I have a genuine interest. So I wanted to ask you, Michael, like, what was your process to being introduced to AI and then gaining an understanding of like how this could be applicable to the ministry world? Like, obviously we hear about AI all the time in the news, new companies popping up, new technology, but what process did you go through to be like, man, this could add value to the ministry space?
That's a really good question. I wish I could. I mean, it honestly just came out of personal frustration, a problem that needed to be solved in our local church in LA.
I think that's how it usually starts.
Yeah. Like I've always been interested in technology, and I've always kind of done, I've always been an entrepreneur and kind of been involved in like various like tech startups and stuff, and have always done ministry bivocationally. This was the first time those two kind of really intersected. And the reality was at the time I was helping produce a bunch of podcasts, and we were using this random tool online where we would upload the audio from a podcast and turn it into like show notes and, all of that kind of stuff. And, my co-founder and one of my best friends in the world, Jake Sweetman, and I, we had bemoaned really since COVID about we were like building a church in LA, thought we were really doing awesome. Church is growing, COVID hits, and most of our churches like under 30. And we start seeing the stuff they start posting on Instagram with like just 6 weeks of not having church during COVID. And all of a sudden we had this existential crisis of like, I thought we were pastoring these people. How is it that they're saying this or reposting that? And that was just where like our focus was on, like shifted to discipleship. And so we had always been just going like, how do we have a stronger voice to our church during the week? Not trying to build some like big platform, just like how can we help our people interact with what we're doing locally? And so honestly, we were sitting in a room in our church. I grabbed an MP3, uploaded it online of one of Jake's sermons from the previous Sunday, and just typed in like create a 5-day devotional based upon this sermon. Wow. And it kind of just came out, and I literally went in, I got Sarah, who at the time was leading our youth ministry, small groups ministry, church communications, and social media. And I just brought her in and I said, hey, if you had a tool like this to use every single week, what would this do for you? And she's like, this would legitimately save me 10 to 12 hours a week. And that was honestly it. So it was like, the problem we were trying to solve was, how do we take Jake's messages from Sunday and email a summary and a devotional to the congregation on Monday? That was it. And so it kind of has evolved a bit from there, but yeah, that was how it started.
How do you see churches now starting to use AI tools well? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think like our use case, because of, and I say how easy it is to build, like it's obviously no piece of software is easy to build, but like what you see with what we do, where it's like, just take church communications, right? How am I communicating with, on social media, our staff, our team, and how can I create content using some sort of base informational data set, so to speak, that's been created. So the sermon, right? So for me, it's like, I think what's beautiful about AI is, I've said this before, like pastors are the most prolific content creators in the world, right? Like they're the only people that preach 50 weeks a year. I mean, we all know pastors who are in their 60s and 70s and just have like libraries of just thought and scripture and teaching and wisdom. And most of them, they're just kind of sitting on a shelf. And now with AI, it's sort of like this thing that you spend so much time doing is now just exponentially, like the reach is exponentially greater. So for us, it was the local church pastor's voice is the most critical voice we have in our culture today. How do we use AI to amplify it? And basically, what does the local church pastor do? They preach sermons. So what we're seeing is like, what's actually funny is that's such a basic use case of AI, but for the church, it is, it's wild. And like kind of a funny anecdote. When we first launched Pulpit AI, we had all of these venture capital investors from Silicon Valley reaching out to us, right? This is so unique, and the largest venture capital firm in the world, called Andreessen Horowitz, which is, manages billions and billions of dollars. One of their AI partners said to me, they said, we think that for the first time ever, AI unlocks a investable venture capital market in the church space. Because it is a tool for communicators, right? And so, yeah, I think that's been a really cool way to see churches. There's some really bad and cringy ways churches are using AI.
Tell us more.
We can talk about that if you want. We talk about that. I'm happy to like kind of talk about that as well.
Yeah, tell us the cringe. Tell us the cringe.
Yeah, I think if we are using AI to replace like embodied person-to-person ministry, we've completely missed the point of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very good.
And so I am seeing like, hey, chat with your pastor on a bot, right? Or, hey, like this particular AI is going to help you with pastoral care or anything like that, right? So, and I think when we think about AI, it's sort of like, how are we utilizing this to help our ministry teams do more ministry and less administration? So I think if we're using it like that, that's amazing. But the minute we start replacing like pastoral care and discipleship and what it means to be a pastor and a leader, that's to me where it gets kind of like really, really scary. and not good in terms of just the church. You know what I mean? And then obviously there's like pastors just straight up using ChatGPT to write sermons for them, from scratch, right? Where it's like, might as well. Yeah. So anyways, I would say those are kind of like the problematic directions. But
so that leads me into my question. My question is, where are we getting in terms of the ethical lines here? So what's that conversation like? There's going to be ethical lines. I'm assuming we actually need to know our Bibles. I'm assuming
100%.
that's still important in 2025. We know how to study and rightly divide the word of God. So what's the conversation like around ethics with it right now?
So the way we look at it is there's a couple different avenues, like a couple different arenas, so to speak. There's like big picture AI ethics, which is like what is being done with the data and what is the belief of the companies that are building these AI systems. And those are billion and trillion dollar problems and questions, right? That there are actually a lot of amazing Christians spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to solve right now, which is essentially just like, what does a Christian version of ChatGPT look like, right? So that's kind of like the big picture stuff that we're like sort of letting people much smarter than us tackle, because it is a very, very expensive thing to look at. On the more micro level, which is like how are church leaders using it, I really believe a couple things. Number one, like I can't speak for any other products, but Pulpit AI, we're building the product to facilitate the philosophy we have around AI ethics and how it should be used in churches, right? So for example, our product, you can't just like open up a chat window and have a chatbot start writing stuff for you. You actually have to have something that you feed into the system for it to create content from, right?
Right.
I actually think that where the real important conversations are having are on like a local church level, which is like, what do your local leadership team, elders, staff team come around a table and go, hey, here are all the different ways our team can be using AI right now. Where are the lines? And how are we all like collectively committing and being accountable to one another to use those? So like, for example, like, is a local church pastor using AI to help them write and craft their sermons? Cool. Let's go a layer deeper. Okay. What are we okay with? Like what levels are there? So I think, I think that it's getting sort of like a rough knowledge around what AI can do practically, and then just sitting around a table with the team going, okay, how is staff using it? How aren't they? What's too far? And going from there.
You think every church should have a guideline for staff on how to use it?
Yeah, 100%. Because for many different reasons. But the amount of work. Now, let me say this. I think every church should not mandate their staff to use it. But if there's a church that's not paying for every one of their staff members to have a $20 a month subscription to ChatGPT, the amount of efficiency that they're missing out on very basic stuff.
Wow.
I get that people think differently about that. So I'm not here to say like use AI or don't. I think there's a big case to be made for we're not going to use any at all, actually. Like I think I can go down that road with some people. But if you are going to use it, it's like, how are we using it? Let's talk through that. Let's make a plan. Here's how, here's what those ethics look like. And here's the accountability for sure.
Great. So, and I hope I can communicate this question correctly. How do we, as second chair leaders, not allow it to become a crutch? You kind of talked about it earlier where we can utilize it, that it almost takes away from the pastoral care and from that discipleship. And I think of second chair leadership, so much of it is learned, like on the field, from being a part of conversations your pastor's having, being a part of meetings. So how do we help lead second chair leaders in the space where this doesn't replace what we're learning from our pastors, from our team on a Sunday, but really utilizing it, like you said, with efficiency, but not utilizing it as like our only tool? I can think of, you said it like, hey, let's use AI and let's start providing the pastoral care, but we still need, I think of how much I learned from my pastor. So how do we kind of intertwine the two?
Yeah, very good.
Second chair leaders.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I think it's just establishing those lines, right? Where it's like, hey, we use it to brainstorm ideas to communicate around a new series that we're doing, and hey, we're actually going to use our pastor's sermon notes to help do that. Right.
Perfect.
Or
Okay.
hey, and so it's like, one thing is like, some churches do like, whether it's like creative meeting or strategy meeting, or, hey, the teaching team is going to get together. Hey, we're going to record that conversation. And we're going to just help think through like, hey, how do we pre-communicate to the church about actually? So again, I think it's like using that like base layer of like content that's already created, or, hey, these are our church's values. Let's load that up and start, brainstorming some different ways that we can, apply those in our church. I think it's anything. I just think it's safe to go, okay, what is like administrative? What is sort of like content creation that is,
right?
I don't want to say less important, but like not preaching a sermon, like what are just some of those things we can use to help us? And I think when you do that, and I think, each church has different core values. It's funny. I was talking to a guy a few weeks ago, and he was like, man, I just can't wrap my head around like, taking a sermon and uploading it into an application that then generates discussion questions from that, because I actually think it's a very formational process for a person on my staff to have to re-listen to the sermon and come up with their own questions to then send to small group leaders. And I'm like, listen, if that is how you value this staff member's time, by all means, have them do
that's good. That's good.
So like, again, we're not here to tell people, but I do think, again, it's just that it's just asking those questions, right? It's almost like, one of the funniest things about AI is people are like, well, how do I prompt it? It's like, well, the beautiful thing about AI is you can ask it how to best prompt it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's almost having those kind of conversations with church teams where it's like, hey, where do we see this adding value? Where don't we? And then just trying and experimenting and not being afraid to try and experiment,
I don't know if this is a question or not, so let me just get into this. I don't mean to jump topics here, but help me through this. So the emerging conversation I'm seeing in the church about leadership development, if we just want to talk about that, leaders are developed in the wild, right? Leaders are not developed in the classroom. They are instructed and taught in the classroom, but are developed by sitting in front of that screen and writing discussion questions. I mean, that's a real thing that you're talking about right there. I think about I've said this a lot of places, my discipleship as a leader or my leadership development as a leader, not one time ever. I hope this is okay to say. Not one time ever did my pastor sit me down and say, today I'm going to mentor you as a leader. That just never happened. It was, hey, join me for years in Saturday night debrief after service to hear how we process through the challenges of the service. Hey, sit in my message prep meeting. I sat on his creative team, his message prep team for years. And I just sat and I listened to him process. And I think I developed a voice that became in line with him. But people kind of wonder, how does that happen? Well, I sat on that team for years. So I think that's a real thing. I think leaders are developed in the wild, and we certainly don't want to take that away. And quite frankly, shortcutting a leader's development is not good. We have way too many shortcuts for every sphere of life right now for young people anyway. Sometimes a grind is good, but I still believe there's a tool here. I still believe there's a way, like you're talking about, for efficiency and for not spending time on something that actually isn't going to form you. So I don't know if you have any comments on leadership development along those lines, but I do feel like the two can live together. We can offer efficiency for people while at the same time letting them grit and grind it out in those experiential ways as leaders. Do you see it that way?
100%. And I think you're totally right on. And I think even further to what I'm hearing you say, and that I've actually, like, leadership development is not a clear-cut playbook that's the same for everybody. Right. And so I think it's different for different people. I think even with AI, it's like people keep asking us, like, are you gonna release this like blanket, here's 10 ways to use AI and 10 ways to not. And I'm like, we're actually never going to do that because I'm not the pastor of the local church and I'm not the one discipling the people. So, maybe, does this person on your staff team, like, because of what, it's just not the same for everyone, right? Like, yeah, if I'm talking to a youth pastor and I'm like, hey, youth pastor, no, I want you to like write your sermon with like a Bible and a journal, and because that's part of the development that you need to be going through right now. Right. Totally different. Or, hey, person on the team, maybe it's like, maybe you're just like using AI to create like way too much, and I don't mean to go here because I do, but I do think this will matter. It's like, now you better believe every church staff member can be a content creator influencer. Right. They can create content every single day. So it's like, it's like, again, it's like you said, it's like the person to person leadership development. It's not binary. So much of it falls under, I believe, like the vision and the conviction of the lead pastor and the church leadership team.
That's right.
And I think that's why I say, like, I think every church is going to be so different. I know pastors who would say, yeah, I want my teaching team using AI to help them like research faster and come up with better alliteration for their sermons or whatever it might be. And then you may have another pastor that's like, absolutely not. That goes against my philosophy of how we use this. And I think it's got to be both and. And that's why I think it is just like that open and honest conversation with church teams. And like, back to the question about the second chair leader, I do think that just as oftentimes it falls on the second chair leader to figure out, hey, what payments company are we using? Hey, what, like, just like look at the efficiency administration stack across a church. We know that oftentimes that falls on that. I know a lot of executive pastors who are the bookkeepers and they're the, all of that stuff. And so I do think those second chair leaders I actually believe a very important task ahead of them to look across the entirety of their church and go, how can we be incorporating this in the same way that you would be looking at, a way that your church uses technology in any other way? I don't know if that answers your question, Brandon, and I'm not trying to keep putting it back on the pastor, but unfortunately, I think because I just think it's important that way because everyone has different convictions.
No, you answered it so in line, I think, with how I'm thinking about this. At the end of the day, I don't mean to get too dramatic here, but at the end of the day, Jesus has an opinion about his church.
Right.
And in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 2 and Revelation 3, we see Jesus write 7 letters to 7 churches. And guess who he writes the letter to? He writes the letter to the pastor. Each letter starts with, to the angel of the church of Ephesus, or, wherever. That word angel is translated messenger. It's the same word that was used for John the Baptist. It's a person. It's the pastor. Jesus was writing a letter to the pastor saying, this is what I think about your church. I mean, can you imagine getting a letter, like a physical letter from actual Jesus of this is what I think about your church? But to me, that informed my theology. Like when I got that informed my theology about the authority of a pastor over a local church. The Bible actually warns us against it's desiring a good thing, but also warns us because we bring upon ourselves a stricter judgment. Well, there it is right there, is you've got Jesus who's going to have something to say to you about your church and what you're doing. So to me, Michael, you actually put the responsibility back. Jesus is not going to hold ChatGPT responsible for the church. He's not going to hold Pulpit AI responsible for the church. He's going to hold pastors and leaders responsible for the proper stewardship of what the Bible calls the mysteries of God. So it is vital that the responsibility stays in the same place. And yet, just like social media, I love that you drew that line earlier. Just like social media all those years ago, we've got something that can help us to be more, to be better stewards of what God has given to us.
Great. And really quick, Pastor Brandon, even with that, I think for second chair leaders, yes, ultimately it's our pastors that are going to set the guidelines. But I'm thinking, as a second chair leader, what is my why? Why do I want to use it? There's tasks that we have that are tedious, right? But is it because we don't want to do the work, or is it because we want to care and pastor people at a different level? Because I think I can look at what my weekly list looked like, and there's some tasks that are super tedious, but it's actually what allows me to get a better understanding of the health of my teams and my ministry. So if I get rid of that, then I'm like, okay, wait, yes, that may take this many hours in the week, but now do I actually know how my team is doing? Do I know how my leaders are? So I even think for second chair leaders that are listening is this should not be to make it easier on us, but really so that we can steward our time better to care for the people that we've been entrusted with. So I think that as second chair leaders can really help us get a gauge of, hey,
very good.
Should I use this in this area, or should I use this? And really, ultimately, I think it would check the posture of our heart, like, hey, this is going to allow me to better care for my team, to get a better care for the people of my church. So this would be a no. So I think our pastors will give us the green light. And then as second chair leaders, we have to actually use discernment on, hey, this is what I want to use it for.
That's great. And that's actually really good. And it made me think about, honestly, some of those like first use cases, which isn't maybe to go, if you're sitting around with your team or you're a second chair leader, how do we use this? Maybe the first way to think about that is like, not how do we use AI to replace something we're already doing, but how do we use AI to do something we haven't been able to do yet? Right. So as simple as I take my pastor's sermon that he or she preaches on a Sunday, I upload it to something, and now all of a sudden in 5 minutes, we can send our church a daily devotional based on that. Right. And that's like a very basic use case, but maybe it's like, I think if a second chair leader is looking at it through what more can we accomplish, not like what can we do less of, that may be like a really like a unique first way to look at it, which is like, what does this unlock for us? And for some churches, honestly, what we're finding is for some churches, especially smaller ones, that just like Pulpit AI means they can like post sermon clips from Sunday, and they've never been able to do that because they don't have the time or the resources to edit that themselves, right? And like, to me, that's a pretty cool use case that just helps the church team go, I've always wished we could do that. But priorities have always gone, well-intentioned priorities have always gone above that. So
that's
I think
really
that's
good.
such a good point. I think that's a great point you made.
Really good. Michael, this is a brilliant conversation. I think we're probably going to need to continue this as we go here, but I want to land here. One thing I love about you is you love the church, and you're passionate about discipleship, and you're passionate about the church getting it right. So maybe just land us on a big question today. What's your heart for second chair leaders in this season? We're navigating AI, we're navigating new tech. Quite frankly, we're navigating culture conversations that are really important. I don't mean to get us off into this, but we've had one administration in the government, now we have another. I mean, just things are changing all over the place. What's your heart in all of this for second chair leaders? How do we get it right?
Yeah. I don't want to take us into like a dark turn here, but I don't know another way to do this, because this is it's honestly what I'm most burdened with. The conversation around how does the church use AI needs to we got to make a decision and we got to move on, because AI is coming for our people in ways that go so far beyond what we can even imagine. And I use this anecdote to hopefully help open pastors' eyes to think about what social media has done to teenage girls and the discipleship crisis that's caused in the church 15 years later. Okay. So about a year and a half ago, we had a gentleman in our church whose wife they had two young, beautiful daughters. One of them had Down syndrome. Both, I think, were under the age of 5. Wife gets cancer, passes away after fighting it, battling it for 2 years. One of those things that happens in a church that is just heartbreaking, right? This guy comes up to me one day after church and is like, "Hey, Mike, I found this AI thing online where I can take all of my late wife's voice notes, videos, writings that she had been leaving for the previous 2 years, and I can upload it to this thing, and an avatar will be created of her that my kids can interact with in perpetuity. And he's telling me that he's doing this without any kind of thought around, is this right? Is it wrong? Should I be doing this? And then it brings up the question, like, and again, Brandon, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get like ultra philosophical here, but it begs the question of like suffering and pain. And so, I've heard stories, like I had a friend whose mom lost everything in a scam from an AI influencer from her favorite country music star. People's jobs are going to be displaced. So I'm not trying to be like the doomer guy here, but what I am saying is, if we're having to undo what social media has done to form and disciple our people, what AI is going to do and what it unlocks is a whole brand new world where, 10 years from now, we're going to our lives are going to be first digital before they are physical, right? That is going to happen. So I think we have to okay, how do churches use this? Great. Awesome. Let's change the conversation to, as pastors and leaders, how are we pastoring and leading our people through the changes in the world that this technology is going to bring? Because it actually is going to be bigger than social media. It is. And so I hate to sound like I'm not a doomer. I don't mean it like that, but I do think it's going to present. So that's where my heart is. Without
I don't know.
sounding,
I think you're a little bit of a doomer.
Yeah, I am.
No,
does that make sense?
to
It's
me,
to me, it's just like, dude, it's happening.
Yes.
And it's going to be here faster than we realize it.
Yeah.
And so we have to start preparing our people.
what I'm hearing from you is I'm hearing the heart of someone who has been in this world. You have immersed yourself. You saw a need and you have immersed yourself in this world, and you're probably farther along than most of us are. And I think, to your point earlier, we didn't know what we had coming at us with social media. I mean, it was Twitter. It was these little micro posts. I mean, that was it for a while. We had no idea the effects it would have on our health and our relationships. And the church did and is finding its way into that space. But to your point, we can't afford to turn a blind eye or, that's just that weird search thing that some people use, ChatGPT. It's like you said, it's coming for us. It's coming for people's jobs, people's
100%.
livelihood. People will be out of employment at some point if their jobs are automated by AI, and they're going to have to reconcile that as a family. So a tremendous amount coming for us. And I appreciate that you're letting us know it's on its way, because we need to be wise about this.
I feel like I feel like with that, I'm like a late night TV guy going, it's coming for you. I don't mean it like that, but it is. But even like how our kids think, like ChatGPT is going to write school papers and already is. And can Christians be the people that say, no, we're actually going to we're going to continue thinking deeply about things and studying and using
Very
it.
good. Very good. How about we save it for a part 2 and have you back? We love you, Michael. Thank you for loving the church. Thank you for loving Leading Second. Thank you for loving leaders. We're grateful for you. Thank you, Dillion and Leys. Y'all are the best. We love having you on our team. Leading Second, we love you so much. We are committed to developing a space that helps you thrive in the second chair. Check out leadingsecond.com for everything we're offering right now. Until next time, Leading Second, let's run strong for the kingdom and lead in an uncommon way together. God bless you all.
It's our honor to serve churches and leaders across the globe. We equip ministry leaders with the coaching, events, and resources needed to embrace their calling, get it right with their pastor, and lead in an uncommon way. Visit our website, leadingsecond.com, to learn how we can come alongside you as you lead from the middle, from the second chair for the second chair.